Eighth or 80? Oh, okay. All right. At this time, we'll call this meeting to order. And roll call. Everyone is present. Next, we'll move to the approval of the current agenda. Do I have a motion, Virginia? Makes a motion of first. Do I have a second? Milty, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Then we'll move to the approval of the December minutes, monthly minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those? Milty,
Move to approve.
a first. Do I have a second? Virginia? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Say aye. Oppose? Then Robert, I will move over to you on the monthly reports.
Okay, thank you. So first one I'm gonna go over is the appointments one. The information that was updated on the 25th. That's our scheduled appointment to walk in. So we'll go over that one first.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So obviously you'll see a spike from last year in our phone calls. The numbers were updated because we sent this out to you earlier. So we actually had 181 phone calls in December. We also had 5 more walk-ins after the report was sent out. So we're at 16 and we had 18 scheduled appointments. So we're actually starting to see walk-ins coming in now. Scattered. Obviously, we're tax season coming up. We're getting more people coming in for the tax credits and finding out at the end of the year what the new rates will be, what the new pension rates will be. We're anticipating in January. That's when we start working on our pension. So our January numbers will start to increase again because that's every year they do their medical expense worksheets that we have to send into VA. So we'll be starting to process those. So our numbers for January should spike up. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's move over to the awards received.
Okay.
So our awards received, we had the retro pay that was paid to one of our veterans. You'll see that it's $5,279. They also increased his every month paycheck. So we had an increase in benefits of $1,358, which brings our projected total for all of 2020 at $1.3 million.
Are things moving along? Last you said things were kind of slow, a little slow. Are they moving a little faster or still?
We're having problems right now. We're still seeing LHI, VES, and QTC, which is the 3 organizations that mainly do compensation and pensions, or compensation, excuse me. They do their medical appointments. We're still seeing a lag in those because normally you can go within 150 miles of wherever you are at. So VA has to look in that radius, but then they're running into places that have stricter COVID requirements. So some doctors still aren't seeing patients that are, and compensation exams are lowest on the totem pole versus regular healthcare. So as the healthcare system frees up, we're getting more. But I still say that compared to last year, we're not getting through those exams as fast as we were before. We're still seeing a problem with the Green Bay VA, although they have started rectifying that too, because now they're having the VA doctors can do that. And I'll go over a decision here in a minute. So normally we could go to VA or Milwaukee to do it, but they have so much medical care that right now that they're trying to make up for that they're not getting that time, because Green Bay was down 5 doctors at the beginning of the year. Then COVID hit, down 7 doctors, and now they're just now starting to fill those in. So there's a lot of annual appointments and stuff that were missed. They're trying to make those up now. In fact, I just got my call last week.
What about non-essential type procedures? Are those starting to go back in the system?
Yes. So they are, like, I got my call last week for my dental appointment, which will be in January. So they're starting to make the calls now for the non-emergency appointments for all the surgeries, like your MRIs or for your colonoscopies and stuff like that. So they're starting to make those regular appointments again. I won't say we're back up to par where we were before, but we're slowly getting there.
Because that's obviously a big concern in the healthcare industry wide, you know, when people aren't getting these preventive measures and they're no longer catching cancer early, that, you know, mammogram, colonoscopies, and veterans certainly are in that same boat.
So one good thing is they in September they switched over to Optimum, which I briefed y'all last time. Optimum's network is huge. To include Prevea is part of Optimum also. So we got added on a huge list of urgent cares, and VA has a designated down in Milwaukee. The community care program is going really well. Most of our veterans who get set out to community care are getting their appointments within 30 days. So that's good for the community care portion. We just got to get the VA back up to where it is, so it's going into the VA system versus going outside in the community.
Do you have any monitor as far as how many veterans that were in the system that are like going back now? If the VA is calling, going back, or are some of them afraid to go in, or do you have any feel for that?
When we talk to the patient advocate, that's Mike. He's the one that took over from Jason. How do I put this? We don't have as many walk-ins to the clinic because they still haven't opened the doors completely. So they have to get the calls first.
Yeah.
Some of our veterans are very skeptical on going in. On a community base, even some of the veterans that we deal with here, they'd rather do it over the phone or via email, which I've been doing quite often. And that's what Jason's finding is they'd rather do the telehealth for those that can navigate that system.
Because that's what they asked me if I wanted to do my telehealth, and I'm like, I didn't really want to. I had to go in for lab work anyway, and so I refused to do the telehealth.
Some of our veterans, for like if they don't have a lot of medical issues, they just do the telehealth because it's just, yeah, I'm good. Everything's the same as it was last year, and they go do their labs. Some prefer that face-to-face. That way they can talk to their doctor. I feel that most of our veterans prefer to do a face-to-face, and they haven't removed all the restrictions for that yet.
Now, I know when we had Cindy in here, we were talking about the vaccination. Is the VA going to provide any of that? So if you're not like the 1A tier, can you still go in as a veteran and get vaccinated?
No. So VA actually released their documentation for their vaccination program. And Milwaukee got theirs. I think it was 2 weeks ago is when Milwaukee VA first got theirs. And it's the first line hospital personnel workers that are getting it first. They're meeting a lot of resistance to our veterans who are higher risk on getting a shot because it's not a mandatory vaccination. And some of our veterans feel, hey, I've already been through enough and I've been injected with all kinds of stuff. I don't need something else. So that's a consensus that we talk about a lot on the phone. Yeah. Not getting into the politics of it. I just, okay, hey, it's just out there, letting you know.
So are they going to be, this would be a question. So if the vet is in Kewaunee County, are they going to get it through the health department, or are they able to be labeled and get it through the vet, like your VA hospital? Because that would be that would, you know what I mean? Because you're labeled 1, 2, or 3, these vaccines. Well, then that frees up the vaccine to give to these other people in our county. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, but we can call down to Dr. Zomchek's office and find out how that's going to be handled in the communities for the healthcare versus us.
Because, Cindy was like, geez, okay, so do we take our teachers when we're into that 1B tier and they live in Brown County? Is Brown County responsible for vaccinating them, or do we just vaccinate them because they're working in our community?
And we're only going to get so many vaccines, so we want to use them the right way possible. So if the veterans are able to get them
through the
VA, why waste it on the county when we can use it through people who...
I will partner with Cindy and we'll contact the hospitals and see what I can pull up their plan, and then I'll contact the administrator and say, how's this working with the community? So maybe they have an idea how that's going to be labeled.
Because she figures that of the people that she's been hearing that are eligible in like the 1A tier, only like a third of them were willing to get the vaccine. So,
and that was your big counties, like I believe she said Dane.
Yeah.
So only a third out of how many they thought really did it.
Yeah.
So that's a huge chunk.
Yeah, even our soldiers, it's not required. So my father, who works over in Madigan, he was a walk-in because they had vaccinations that weren't being used, and they're like, okay, we're just opening it up to, if you're working here and you're in contact in the hospital, then you're eligible to get it. So my dad went in and got it. So I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to get it right now.
Yep. Very skeptical.
So I'll partner with Cindy on that one. I'll make a note, and then I'll follow up with you on an email and let you know how that's going to work out.
Great. Thank you.
But otherwise, out of our veterans that you start dealing with, pretty much there's nobody that's in limbo because they don't want to go to the doctor appointment or they're not following up. Pretty much everybody you've been dealing with somehow it's flowing yet.
It is.
Okay.
I think our veterans are, even when I tell them, hey, you got to go into, they know they have to
They-
wear a mask and they know the
Okay.
precautions and stuff like that. So they're actually more willing to go than they were before.
Okay. I got to get back to my other screen here.
Okay. So that was, I didn't move on yet.
Okay.
Then we just look at the one that's the year-to-date totals for the one-time payments projected in the monthly benefits. Where it says year-to-date total was,
Yep.
so our closing of the year for our one-time was 980,000. If you look at December, the reason December is down is a lot of changes in the VA as far as the compensation side goes. So our numbers will reflect that. Obviously, we're still 3 times what we were last year. So, I mean, the numbers are, again, we're in the flex because of the increase in our 100%ers that are getting it from the Blue Water stuff. So we see that huge number this year.
We might have a lower number next year.
Well, yes.
Or some still pending where.
Yes and no, because there's good news for our veterans, and I'll get into that when we get into the news part. But
Okay.
But yeah, for the overall for the year, the office maintained its status quo. We will process. We are actually working with some of the veterans that are not in our county, just because other CVSOs have been closed. So we have ones that are coming over to us to allow us to help them navigate the systems.
Okay, which is good. Otherwise, they have nowhere to go.
I don't turn them away.
Perfect. All right. Any questions or any more on that subject of the monthly reports? Then we'll move to the current VA news.
Okay. So this was what I was saying. That there's currently, you all probably heard that the National Defense Bill, the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act for 2021, was signed by the Senate and the House on December 11th. Then President Trump vetoed it on December 23rd. The House and the Senate then went back on December 28th, and then on January 1st, they voted again, which overrode the veto. Now, the reason that's so important to us, not just because the national defense gives the payments for the government organizations to operate, but it's also important because there was some key legislation in there in regards to our Agent Orange exposure. So in section 1090B, they actually added in 3 new contentions for Agent Orange. So that's Parkinsonism, bladder cancer, and hyperthyroidism, which is great. Those have been on the books for a while. The research was done. We were just waiting for Secretary Wilkie to present the information, and they said the study wasn't going to be done until 2021. Because the senators pushed it, that got onto the bill. So that actually adds 3 contentions. What that means to us is, as CVSOs, now we start pulling our list and looking at everybody who was bladder cancer before. So if they had bladder cancer and it was denied by VA, I get to go back and file their claims, and then they get backdated up until the time they had their radiation treatment, and then anything that is secondary residuals of the bladder cancer itself.
That's a big deal.
It is. So potentially you're looking at a veteran who has bladder cancer or had bladder cancer, say they were a bladder cancer patient for 5 years. They're 100% while they're in bladder cancer, while they're on full-blown cancer. So if they had it for 5 years and then they went into remission for 5 years, every month they would have been eligible for over $3,000. So that becomes huge checks to the veterans. And we have a couple of them that as soon as it came out, me and Tara were already thinking about in our heads who we already had. I know 3 of them right off the top of it when we're just talking about it. But the report will run today to try to figure that out.
So then they not only collected when the Blue Water came out, they got that. Now you can go back in and collect if they have bladder cancer.
So if they had prostate cancer, which is already on the presumptives for Agent Orange, now we can go back and say, well, they also had bladder cancer. And we have one veteran who has had almost every cancer there is from neck down. So for him, it's steadily every time we turn around and they add a new one, it's great because we can go back in and do the claim again. So not good for the veteran to have cancer, but at least he's surviving them enough that he's getting his compensation for it. So, and Parkinsonism, that one's going to be another one. We have one that actually we just got our response back from VA. So we're actually working on that right now because it's Parkinson or Parkinson-like symptoms. Whereas before that wasn't on there. So we have some of our veterans currently that have Parkinson's or non-classified Parkinson's that will be putting in the claim for that also.
Okay.
So that's great news for our veterans. And then the other thing that came out for, they're starting to do a study for our veterans that are in, that potentially could have had diabetes 1, type 1 diabetes, excuse me. Although it's known to be a juvenile one and younger age, there is, it can hit anyone at any age. And they're saying that Agent Orange is actually linked to, potentially is linked to that also. So that's been put in there, and VA owes the response back to the Senate. So we'll wait for that one to come out. There was another one that was another court ruling that came out on December 18th. It talks about the radiation that was exposed during 1966. It was in the Spanish court side where we had a base. They actually had radiation there, or they had nuclear material, we'll say. So before, those veterans were not eligible to receive it because it was not put on the books as that, excuse me. So therefore now, with that ruling came out on December 18th, now that's another one we have to go back and look to see if any of our veterans actually were exposed to that radiation, so we can file the claims for that also. Let's see. And the other one, which I think is a really cool thing that just came out. So I gave you all a copy of this right here, which is the individual longitudinal exposure record. And what this is under the new law for the National Defense Authorization Act, VA now is required to put into this. And what it is, if you look at the third page, or excuse me, the fourth page, it has that little diagram that has all the different types of agents that have been exposed to, or our veterans have been exposed to. Agent Orange, nerd agents, solvents, anti-malarial, the dust and sand, fuels, pesticides, radiation, depleted uranium. So what they're going to have to do is they actually have to go and they have to plot that on like a GLMS system. So it shows the soldier's deployment and where you are on your deployment, and then all the different dots of radiation or whatever was around you. So they can say this is what you were potentially exposed to, and it has to be put into every veteran's records, which is amazing. So it's Department of Defense is working on with VA. So the veterans fight for burn pits for my generation, which is a huge thing. They can say, okay, well, Stearns, you were deployed to Taji and Rustamaya and wherever, and these where the burn pits were, and then they can forecast where my exposure rate on how much I would have been exposed to, which is going to be great.
We also have to remember that the government has to admit that those things occurred at those locations, which doesn't always happen.
True.
Just to be clear.
Correct. So there will always be the
you and I can say we were at this base and we had it, and it's denied it was ever. I mean, Agent Orange, that's been the battle.
Correct.
Forever.
And a burn pits is our generation's battle right now. But it helps us with some of the claims.
Sorry.
I mean, at least it's a step in the right direction. And the more exposure we get to programs like this, that's forcing the DOD and the VA to actually recognize it, then it actually forces their hands to open more records, which is exactly what happened with Agent Orange. You know, as things progress, then it's like, okay, now we want to know the answers, and they have to start answering the questions. So it forces the hand a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy with that for now. All right, the next thing I gave you a huge packet. So this packet right here is new released. So this is kind of the welcome guide for a veteran into the VA system. This was just released in November of this past year, November 2020. It's automated. It walks them step by step through on how to do stuff, what they need to roll. So if you have a chance, flip through it. It kind of goes over the healthcare and finances, housing, employment, education, memorialization, which is your burials and your flags and stuff. And then understanding your eligibility, and there's all kinds of metrics and how you do that. What I want you all to do is just this kind of gives you all an overview, what the VA system is. And it kind of walks you through how we're going to do that and how we help them with that. So what I plan on doing is next month, I will take one of these and say, okay, now we're going to go over how to do disability claims for compensation. And then we're going to walk you through the step-by-step process that a veteran has to do when they come in the office, any changes that have come up since this was released, because things are changing all the time in the VA. And one of our jobs is always to get in there and research what's changing in the realm so that you all are informed. So this kind of gives you an overview on exactly how what the veteran looks at when they first get out. It has contact numbers in there, which is useful for you guys in case somebody asks you a question as a veteran committee. You have the contact numbers in there. Obviously, you refer them to my office because I can always answer the question probably quicker. But it gives you some good, just basic knowledge of what the VA system is.
I'm going to have a question. So when you are in service and you left, do they give you this information?
Yes.
They
So
do?
every branch has a thing. In the Army, it was called ACAP. That program is designed as a 30-day program. They teach you how to write resumes. They sit down and actually have a VA person come in and discuss VA benefits. The problem is you're cramming all that information into a death by PowerPoint of 8 hours. And after about the first hour, most soldiers turn that attention off after they figure out the money part of it. And then they don't listen to anything else. So when they come out, and they're handed a book, which is it's a smaller book, but it's the Federal Benefits Guide that has all this broken down in little tiny letters. And I will tell you that most of them throw it in their little to-go bag that they have when they leave the military, and they never look at it until they come in the office. And I say, hey, did you get one of those? And then I pull one out of the drawer, and then we kind of discuss it all. So
You get inundated with a lot of stuff.
I suppose.
And a lot of times you just want to go home at that point.
and, I mean, you're focused on, and I'll be honest, like when I retired, you have all these classes from DFAS, and the National Guard comes in, the reserves come. I mean, everybody comes in and does these talks, and then you have to write your resume, and you have all this stuff going on. And in the back of your mind as a soldier, you're thinking, okay, my career is over right now, and I have to focus on, I have to find a job, I have to find a place to live. You're not really focused on what's going on in the realm here because that part's gone. I'm more focused on getting out of here and getting home and figuring that part out. Unfortunately, and that's why I think, Wisconsin being very important in our state, because every county has one of us, whereas some states only have 2 or 3. I mean, my dad lives in Washington. He has to go into the VA center to actually see somebody for a claim. They don't have CVSOs, which really, your appointments are maybe if you call, you'll get in within 2 or 3 months. I mean, that's how long you'll wait. It's like going to a doctor, it's just. So Wisconsin, I like the fact that we have, 72 counties, all of which have a CVSO plus the tribes. So.
Yeah. Otherwise you have to wait
Yeah.
to get an answer.
And and we have other officials, our congressman for this area, Gallagher, he is very involved. He has Carrie, who's his assistant with veteran stuff, and she's very involved with it. And if I can't get an answer on my calls, I can reach out to her, and she has the magic numbers to rattle chains.
Very good. All right. Any questions on this? So Robert, that was the current VA news, and then you have the VA program, okay.
Yeah, I went straight into that. I'm sorry.
You did. Okay. I just wanted to check. All right. Is there anything else? Any questions on this part that we just had? Then we'll move to travel. Anything with travel, Robert?
No travel.
Anything with overtime?
No overtime.
And any other matters?
Just to keep you aware that we did have one veteran we put in a veteran relief app. We had money left over in our levy fund. So we actually the veteran was behind on the taxes, and it was amazing to watch that Corps Counsel and the sheriff and the treasurer, working together to help this veteran out on the funds that I currently had available. So we made phone calls. They finally got a hold of him. So we keep him from losing his house and his property.
Okay. Thank you. So this was that money that we have in that fund that we moved, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions on that? Then we're going to move to the next meeting, which would be in February. And we had down February 8th. So if that works okay for you guys, then we'll do after the health, February 8th, after our health meeting. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay,
Beautiful.
perfect. Then do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Jeff has a first. Do I have a second? Milty second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Then we are adjourned.
Thank you, Robert.
Yes, thank you all for coming.
6 o'clock. Here, yes.
So
It's probably only a
after this, our county board is end of January.
yeah, it's later this month.
So then we have to have those, things into the county clerk before county board meeting, right? Or is it the whole month of January?
Whole month.
It is?
You're talking about You're talking about the blue sheets?
Yes, I thought it was
And-
like a couple days before the end of the month, they have to be in
End of the month,
end of the month.
yeah.
I thought of that
It's
this morning.
January 26th, yeah.
Okay.
You got time.
I thought there was a new thing where they had to be in by a certain date, not the end of the month. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Well, I've been going by the end of the month, but
Okay. Perfect.
if they don't like it, they're usually pretty good at letting you know. I'll see you.
All right, see you tonight. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
They're coming for you, Milty.
That's right. That's the song. They're coming to take me away, the men in the little white suits. I always laugh about that.
It's not PPE, it's a straitjacket.
That's right.
Logan counts both.
That's true.
They asked her last night, so we live on a side road, but we live on a road. And that side road is an access from 54 to 80,
Well,
so it's used for people that have children, so they fly. Well, and we have a
Friday
big
night,
window.
Saturday afternoon, and
Knocking
yesterday
down
morning, and my
any
brother
kind of
called me
siren, they
Saturday.
have that new siren.
What's
and
that?
The one that goes.
Oh, that,
Oh my
He
God.
rattled off all kinds of people that died, and
Out
I
of my
said, you gotta be
chair.
kidding.
And it was
Oh.
lucky. I was like,
You live on
Well,
Pleasant Valley?
yeah. We live on Valley. closer
But
to
he had it,
the
he had it
road.
a long, long time
Yep.
ago.
They
Then
do
he kind of
that
went into
all the time,
remission, and now
especially
it came back again.
Because I kept that way. Valley going, where you go back to Holman's farm? I think that right?
when did you send it in?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was just right across the water.
There was mass emailing that just went out, I believe, last week.
We had that.
Just as a follow-up to everyone that applied.
I was like, what is that?
Not a normal noise you're used to yet.
Well, let's see what it says here.
Have you been on the ride before? Okay, are you a veteran?
You just said there'd be no services
Okay, and you were on our website?
Is she the one that lives on the corner there?
And you, did you, you said you filled that out on our website, the application?
Brenda was, I'm not where she had
Or
recently
VFW.
moved, but her
Okay.
dad was her stepdad was Harvey Ross. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. And she was married to Wood Goodwin, but they got-
Let me get your full name again.
From where I live, go
Okay.
east. I thought you lived in that house on the corner of Division and Adams?
And is this phone number, can I send you a text
Right on
on
the
this
corner,
on
yeah.
this number? Okay, I'll check to see if we
It
got
says
your
here,
application
Somebody wrote here,
and,
no more pain and suffering.
and then, we can get you that email resent
And that's-
on the, details for it. Well, God willing.
I hate that when they don't have any Q now. I hate that.
Well, we do need snow, that's for sure.
Okay.
So, all right, actually, I'm gonna have a virtual meeting this morning, shortly, and I will be discussing that with some people, and I can follow up with you, to make sure we got your application. And I'll give you the rest of the details. Are you gonna need a snowmobile? You have your own, okay.
I'd like to sit down with you.
Just let me know.
So this is gonna be the Best Western Derby Inn. That's the one on the north side of the track. Yeah, the Best Western Derby Inn. They've got the rates for Sunday night. And you can call them direct. Sure, you just gotta work that detail out with the motel and regarding their rates and whatever. If they, give you that same rate for Monday night that they did for Sunday, I don't know, but I know there's some other guys that want to do it for 2 nights too, so. Beautiful. Well, yeah, well, look forward to seeing you at the ride and I'll get you your information confirmation. Thank you, appreciate it. You bet. Bye-bye.
No, it's not. He had one for just before Christmas. Now he has another one. So it's next week, Wednesday. That's why I bumped up this meeting. Because just in case we have to do the COVID test, we have to travel to Appleton for that or
Okay.
It depends. It depends. What is my date? Maybe it's not next week. Maybe it's next week Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday. It depends. Sometimes they do Monday and sometimes they do right before on Tuesday. They cut it really, really quick. Yeah, that's why the tests are also different. Yeah, like he's already had our surgery at 6.
So that's bothering you, not enough snow, Jeff, huh?
Yeah, that's bothering me. Kind of hard to ride a snowmobile without snow.
So that brings in customers too?
No, that, we got a snowmobile ride, veteran snowmobile ride that we do in Eagle River.
Oh.
And that's always in January after the World Championship Snowmobile Derby.
Oh.
And so that's your set date. And
Okay.
I thought maybe people are gonna snowmobile in the Kewaunee County area that would book it here.
Once in a while we get that, but with there's snow so many other destinations,
Okay,
not as often.
okay.
I gotta scoot, I got 10 o'clock, so.
Yes, sir.
See you guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, so, all right. Thank you, yes, thank you, you guys. Have a good day.
May your son's surgery be successful, Kim.
Thank you, we're hoping. We just got the news on Thursday that insurance picked it up. They weren't gonna pick it up.
Well, that's mean.
Yeah, after twice resubmitting it. But then I reached out to them.